got some engagement by talking about sovereign citizens yesterday, and I left a point sort of wide open. So let's jump back into that point. Hi, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. As always, like and subscribe. If you're a sovereign citizen, I'm probably not the channel for you, but leave a comment. I'm curious. Couple things I want to jump into. Last time I made a point about why sovereign citizens are really a bad idea because of what they get to in their most extreme. We'll get to that in a second. We got some comments yesterday, and the comments, most of them were really interesting. A couple of them were not so interesting. So we post these videos on TikTok as well, or at least the clips of the pod. And we post them on Instagram. Nobody commented on Instagram. But on TikTok, we had some interesting comments. And I love interesting comments because they give me stuff to respond to. So when we looked at TikTok, blah, 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 we go to TikTok and we look at these comments that we got. And here's the thing. On my quick and dirty... Shut up, you. I got a comment. Yeah, I had a comment where somebody said, the only sovereign citizens I know of have qualified immunity. I'm going to raise my hand. Teacher's going to call on me. And I'm going to give a quick and dirty primer on qualified immunity. It applies to government entities, governmental bodies. Qualified immunity means you can't just randomly sue them. There are statutory ways to sue people who have qualified immunity. And those people are almost always in the government. Like a police officer can't be sued for doing his job. He can be sued for going outside the bounds of his job. A police department can't be sued for doing their job. They can be sued for going outside the bounds of their job. Now, is it a perfect system? No. But if you're a sovereign citizen, you do not have qualified immunity because you're sovereign citizens, you're not a thing. I'm sorry. We're not going to entertain this concept. So YouTube, you don't need to put a warning on my video. I'm not supporting sovereign citizenship because I agree it's not a thing, but watch the video before you put a warning on it maybe. Huh? On YouTube though, we got another really interesting comment and I wanted to bring that up as well. It struck me. It struck me. Oblivion Spartan commented, I deal with them, sovereign citizens, at least once a month. In fact, my only use of force on a mentally stable person in almost a decade of law enforcement was a sovereign citizen. Only use of force was on a sovereign citizen. Now, obviously, I don't have a ton of information about how that use of force went down, whether it was as simple as pulling somebody from a car or whether it escalated. But as I noted at the end of the last video, and as I noted at the beginning of this video that we were going to get into, the real problem with sovereign citizens is the extreme case of what they get to. Now, we've all heard of doomsday preppers, right? Largely harmless doomsday preppers. People who just are convinced that the end times are coming and they want to be ready for the situation. They want to be ready for that situation. So they stock up on non-perishable food, they stock up on water, cleaning tablets, stuff like that. A sovereign citizen essentially sees themselves as their own entity inside of a state. And they see themselves this way because they sort of have their own set of pseudo-legal beliefs. Now, when they get pulled over on a minor traffic infraction and they go to court, generally speaking, it's kind of an entertaining clown show. But that's not always the case. That's not the only time people run into a sovereign citizen, and that's not the only crimes that a sovereign citizen commits. And to be clear, traffic infractions are called traffic infractions because they're a different section of the criminal code. They're not really crimes, right? Like speeding is not a crime. It's an infraction. Like you can have criminal speed, but you have to be above a certain level that essentially rises into the level of negligence. If you're going 10 miles over the speed limit, unless you're in a work zone or in a school zone, it's not really considered negligent. The real problem is when you get into situations where they commit a more serious crime. They commit a more serious crime and they essentially believe that they cannot be convicted or even pursued for it. That leads to a lot of problems. The FBI a while ago raided a house, essentially, of sovereign citizens who had barricaded themselves in and not only believed that they were outside the laws of the United States, but believed they had the right to completely defend themselves to the death against the FBI. That's insane. Now, granted, criminals will do that. Like a criminal who the FBI is about to break in the doors of their house and they find out about it ahead of time, or any police agency is going to break in the doors of their house, they try to stand up for themselves. They try to fight back. But for a sovereign citizen, in that extreme case, they try to build their own society within the United States. The issue with that isn't really so much that they fight back. It's that if they get enough people believing their nonsense, all of a sudden you've got a whole bunch of people who think they're above the law of your country. Yeah, this little minor traffic infraction stuff is hilarious, but it gets significantly less hilarious the more you look at the pseudo-legal belief. You get into that system, and all of a sudden, these people, they don't have identity. They don't have, no, they just float. They're like ghosts. Now, granted, we all have a right to privacy. I believe it's I want to say Commonwealth versus Massachusetts. We have a right to privacy. But there are certain things that the government keeps track of, and for good reason. Bare identity information is the thing that comes to mind. We don't need to be tracked everywhere we go. We're not England. And we certainly don't need to have our right to travel restricted. The two types of people who end up as sovereign citizens are sort of a Venn diagram of people who are sovereign citizens and the people who have had big run-ins with the law in the past. It's nearly a circle. That sort of thing can get a little bit hairy. Look, you're entitled to whatever you want to believe, right? You want to be a Scientologist and believe in Xenu or something, go ahead. Do your thing. I'm a Christian. I would expect people to respect my beliefs. If you're a Muslim, I respect your beliefs. If you're Jewish, I respect your beliefs. If you're whatever, I respect your beliefs. But when you get your religion, when your politics becomes kind of a religion, and that, make no mistake, is what sovereign citizen ideology is. It's really a religious cult disguised as politics, disguised as pseudo-politics, buried in quasi-constitutional language and logic, designed to give you the brass ones to think that you're above all law. Well, you start to create pockets in society. The reason when different countries have unified societies is to maintain law and order without having to have the enforcement side of law really be involved. That's the truth of it. You have society, and you have sort of a culture in that society that prevents the need for the enforcement arm of society to really step in. Every country, not just the United States, but every country struggles with finding that balance. It for certain does not help when you actively have groups like sovereign citizens who probably could rightly be classified in their most extreme as terrorists. Now look, you want to try and find a way to get out of a speeding ticket, so long as you don't hurt anybody, go for it. Like, I've already told you why it's a terrible idea. I've already told you why you shouldn't do it. If you want to take a swing at it and you're not going to listen to me, go ahead and learn the hard way. Go ahead, learn the hard way. You're going to find out real quick, but learn the hard way. But the moment that you step out from that line of just harmlessly going about your way and waiting for your chance to argue in court that you are not who you say you are the corporate somebody standing in for yourself. That's once you step beyond that, That's where we have a problem. And that's really where the sovereign citizens become a major problem in our country. You pretty much have the right to do what you want. You have the right to swing your fist until it connects with someone's face. And my sovereign citizen friends, my lovely Dumbos, you're dangerously close to connecting with someone else's face. And I'm dangerously close to running out of time. So, like and subscribe. Leave a mean comment if you didn't like me. Leave a nice comment if you did. Leave a neutral comment if you are just chaotic neutral. Either way, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. Have a great day.